Things are happening. I'm actually getting excited about this project again because, like I said earlier, just putting parts together really motivates you. I'm finally seeing something happening rather than just piles of wires. It's a little delicate at the moment, but the base is currently wired. I got all the buttons connected for the speaker, and now I'm starting from the bottom, working my way up. Got all these pieces glued together with the silicone sealant / glue here, which worked really well on the vinyl because I would be really worried about putting anything stiff like super glue trying to glue this stuff down. Obviously plastic cement wouldn't work, but I have to stop right here because I got a lot of wires to run up and down, and I'm already got a pretty small hole to put them in. I already figured out I'm going to have to jury rig some sort of clamp on the end of a brass rod to get the rest of the wires down there. So this is going to be the bottom assembly, and then the top assembly will do all in one piece before joining them at the waist. The bubble head is going along smoothly. Kind of hard to tell what's going on here. I got all this fabric tape holding everything together, but I got the two separate fiber optic cables. There's for every other one, so this is the one on the left, this is the one on the right, left, right, left, right, and that's what goes down into these two things. There are two 3mm orange LEDs, and what they're running into is just some plastic tubing. I cut a little tube that fits, the LED fits right inside the tube, and then on the other side the fiber optics fit right in, and then it's all taped into place, and that's all working. These here running from the top, this the brain area, I still have to put the resistors on here, and then I can wire that up and send all this down those tiny little holes. Probably should have made bigger holes in that bottom assembly. And then what else we got going on here? I'll show you this one more time. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. So, last thing I got to hook up is this. This is for the mouth. This is the area that's going to light up as the speaker, as the current goes through the speaker. And I think I showed this to you before, but just a reminder because I know it's been months. We got a strip of LEDs, and I made up this little screen thing here. And so this is going to fit inside here somehow. If I got to remember how to do that. There we go. And then I'm going to fill this up with some polyfilla. A 99-cent store teddy bear sacrificed his life for this project. So I'm going to put this in the screen here, in between this area here, which is going to diffuse the light a little bit more so it's more smooth rather than a single bar going across. But we're looking good. I got just a bit more wiring to hook up. I got to extend a lot of the wires. Just underestimated the height of this thing, and so some of these I got to make bigger. I have to put the speaker back on to these wires here, then attach more to them, and I'm got to be very careful, obviously, not to touch the soldering iron to this very, very thin plastic here, because I end up burning a hole through it immediately. But we're looking good. I'm happy. Right now, everything is kind of a jumbled mess, as you can see, with this ridiculous wiring job that I have going on here and this one here. Keep wiring things up and then going to the next step and then sometimes going back because my plan is changing, and it's really hard to explain everything that's going on right now because even I'm not sure. But I mean, the head is all wired up. Unfortunately, the dome popped off, which I'm surprised I didn't do that earlier, but I'm gonna wait till the very end to re-glue that. But the fiber optics and all the wires here are together, got them all going to one wire. This needs to be fed down into the base of the body. And then the chest area here, got everything in place. Gaffer's tape to prevent any light leak and just to hold it in place if necessary. A lot of this is held in with hot glue as well. Working on the speaker now. I was originally going to put this in the crotch area. Best thing I can call it, actually. But changed my mind. First of all, if I put it in here, there's less distance of wires to run. Plus, I was going to put all the batteries in the base, run them all down there. But with the speaker, that's not going to be on all the time. That only works when someone pushes a button. So I could put the battery in here and, you know, not worry about it running out in a couple hours. Also, this part here will actually just sit right on the top of the body. So I don't have to glue that, so I can pop that off and get inside if needed. So that's the current plan. Also, I was trying to figure out where to glue it. I think I'm going to glue it in the back rather than gluing it to the front, so the sound has a bit more room to resonate around. And hopefully you can hear it through all the plastic. That's my one concern I haven't tested now. And then the wires for the power going down to the base. Or actually, this goes to the buttons. I put little connectors on them so I can pull it apart if needed at some point in the future. But just need to figure all this mess out and start feeding it through the body. It's getting ridiculous at the moment because I keep extending wires and then shortening them, and I got splices all over the place, and I hope I don't get a short. But that's where we are right now. Look at this. We have a bottom piece all together. Currently, that's a bunch of that silicone sealant stuff drying in there. And this, I won't say it saved the project, but I love this stuff. This is great. If you need to glue clear plastic or you know, anything you don't want to use, can't use plastic cement or don't want to use super glue on, I'm really liking this stuff. This works a lot better than like white glue. Or even, I used to use lacquer. Clear lacquer, that worked well too. Anyway, bottom part pretty much done. Top part pretty much done. The base on here, I glued this down. I know the robot's supposed to turn, but I couldn't remember which section turned. But anyway, I could have left this swiveling, but I didn't want to leave too much swiveling because the top here, turns out I can leave this loose. Oh, I guess it swivels down here. Oh well, it's not going to swivel anymore. But the top, I can pop. I don't want to pop it all the way off. Whoops, or maybe I do. But that holds down there pretty firmly if I can find the joint, which I won't be able to do on camera now. But anyway, that holds pretty firmly. There, I think I got it. So I can open it up here if needed to check any wires, and then this bubble area pops off as well, so I could go in there. I tested the sound with light in here. Everything worked. However, with the polyfilla, it was a little bit too, the light was too dim, so I pulled it out, and hopefully we'll have better results now. It does look a little white in the area. I would have preferred it was darker. I haven't watched the show in a little bit, so I'm not sure if it's a light or dark area. My bubble top is really loose now. Definitely have to fix that. Talk about one last thing, and then I'm going to put it all together, and we'll do a synopsis at the end. I'll go from top to bottom. The arm bits, which I have not shown in completion yet, had a little problem getting the arms. There's like a lip area here that's supposed to, it's on both sides, but it's supposed to, you know, just slot in, and I couldn't get it to fit, so I ended up cutting it off. However, on this side, I was a bit smarter, and I just made 2 little cuts in this lip, and that managed to give me enough room to just pop this arm on, so this thing actually moves again if I wanted it to, which I don't really want it to, but quick tip there. I will have to use more of that silicone stuff and glue these in. I'll just wait till the end to do that, so I don't have any other loose bits that I accidentally pull off. But, dear Lord, we're almost done. So, we're done, finally. Our robot build is done. Thank God. I'm going to be moving up and down with the camera a lot here, adjusting my tripod because can't get this entire gigantic thing all in frame at once. So I'll give you the look-see. Check out the gams and the chest and the head. And we're going to go over everything starting from the top down. 2 things I need to address first. If you read my Facebook page, yeah, I dropped the robot. When I was putting the top onto the bottom, fiddling with the wires, this knocked loose, hit the table and then smashed into the floor. That was fun. Broke off the handles, completely busted off the dome, bubble brain, and even lost an ear. It took me a while to find it. Luckily, I managed to put it back together for the most part. As I'm looking at it here, I can see that I glued the bubble on a little bit crooked. I want to go back and see if I could fix that. There's supposed to be a central rod in there that I was going to put in there, and I left out for some reason, thinking I wouldn't need it, but that would make gluing this on straight a bit easier. Unfortunately, it's a little late for that. But the second thing I want to mention is that I try to build things that are more easily attainable for most of you out there. I don't do a lot of extreme builds that are awesome to watch, but you know, that no one else is going to follow. I want to make things that people can follow along at home and do on their own. Throughout this build, some people recommended, oh, you know, there's these super duper lighting kits where everything's all done already, but those cost, you know, several $100s, and a lot of people don't want to spend that much money on a kit. Also, either I found it or someone else pointed out to me a few times. Someone else on YouTube is building this thing where the extreme build, I mean, the top here spins around, and he's got a couple different speakers in it, one for the sound effects and one for the audio, and it turns, and he's got remote control and servos in it, and he actually even replaced the treads with real axles inside, and could control it with remote control and drive the robot around. Awesome, incredible skill, but how many of you out there are looking to recreate that? Not a lot of you. So there are ways I could have done this better, but that possibly also makes it less accessible for a lot of people. So keep that in mind. Just because I built it this way, I was trying to find an easier way of doing things. A real good example is the mouth here. I was trying to figure out how to do that. I even emailed someone who built one, and he got back to me and said, well, you got to add this so-and-so chip and do this and this processor and blah, blah, blah. It went all over my head because I don't know electronics that well, but I managed to find this little, I forget what it's called. You have to go back to probably part 3 in the video series. That transistor chip in there, which was simple to do, much simpler than what I was told how to do it. To add that so I get the extra power to light up the mouth whenever I hit the voice buttons. So one example there, that was a shortcut, made it a lot easier. Also, the putting 995, I think they're called 995 or 955, the chips to make the lights blink. I don't know how to do that, but I found a simpler way. I keep calling it the ghetto version way of getting blinking LEDs and adding resistors to change the rate at which they blink. That's a shortcut. Not the best way to do it, but that's a more accessible option, or at least a different option for people who are learning lighting. So anyway, I just want to go over that, you know, at the beginning here. But let's start at the top and point out all the things I did wrong and maybe right, and so you can build your own. The bubble on top, the spinner thing on top was a little bit too high. That was probably due to the LEDs I put in the brain here. There's 2 LEDs in there, 3mm whites blinking on different powered resistors, so they blink at a different rate. I should have probably put 3 because 2 is a little bit off center. This side is a little bit weak with the lighting. Secondly, I didn't light the eyes. I just painted those in. 2 things I did wrong there. First of all, I should have put a couple more coats on it, paint, because some of the blinking light does bleed through the eyes. That's not good. And also, I probably should have done a closer to white color on there. I think it would have looked better. Maybe white mixed with silver. Of course, everything falling apart on this thing, and I'm dropping it. And of course, the dome is the one area that I want to take apart, and I can't get it apart, so I can't fix the eyes without completely shattering the dome. Great. As I mentioned, the dome's a bit wobbly. I should have put that center rod. I think at one point I said I cut some aluminum rod I was going to put in there, and for some reason I didn't. I think I didn't have the space. Should have done that. It would have made mounting the dome a bit easier. Moving down here, we got the mouth, and well, let me just adjust things. The color here is the Vallejo Model Air Steel, which I think is a pretty good match. Vallejo Model Air Gun Gray for here, which may be a little too dark, but I think it works. What is it called? To me, a clear paints for the buttons here, and I think it was a little difficult trying to get that straight because it's a very viscous paint. I should have tried acrylic ink, so I'm wondering if that would have worked a little bit better to get a smooth coat. The door here opens and closes, which is about the only thing on this kit. Sorry, I'm looking for something so I can reach that. It's about the only thing on this kit that does move. I don't like to build kits that move, because then if they move, people have a tendency to play with them. And if you play with them, they break, so I like to keep things more static. The skirt is pants. Vallejo model color gun gray. I think it's a pretty good match. Still a difficult issue trying to paint that area. That very thin vinyl plastic paint doesn't really adhere to it very well. You may want to just skip painting that if you do want to paint it. And also another option you can follow is mixing in a little metallic in with it, because on the third season they did that. They had a little metallic in it. Going down a little lower, got the soil sample door, which again I sealed shut because I don't like to play with things, but you can leave that open if you want. And we got all the buttons here, and we got the on and off controls on the back for separately. This one's for the bubble brain, this one is for the chest area, and the sound, the mouth and the sounds are always on. So let's move back up, see how this works. Hit the red button.
Due to hard conditions of memory bank, compliance impossible.
And one thing, there's a bit of a tinny sound to it. Originally I was going to put the speaker in the pants, but I thought putting it close to the mouth would make more sense. However, the plastic in there I think is vibrating slightly. I'm wondering if it would have worked better in the pants. I'm not entirely sure, and it's not something I fix now. Probably should have also maybe looked at and putting in a slightly larger speaker, so the sound would be less tinny, you know, with a larger speaker with a little bit more bass.
You are a man, I am a machine. Other than that slight difference, we have a great deal in common.
Here's my favorite one and most appropriate.
This project is extremely dangerous.
Yes, yes it is.
With alien life forms, ours is not to reason why. Ours is but to do or become permanently deactivated.
And finally,
Behavior pattern is detected.
so yeah, at least that works with that little tiny transistor thing I put in there.
Difference, we have a great deal in common.
So there we go. It's pretty it's moderately fun. I did this lighting project at request of my viewers. You wanted to see me light something again, and I did. It's kind of confirmed for me, though. I really don't like lighting. I'd rather just paint things, because it's not a skill that I really want to work on improving it. I'm a painter, mainly. I'm a model builder. I'm not an electrician, but there you go. One thing, sadly, that is missing. These two little holes here, that's where the power pack goes on his side. I didn't lose it. I know where it is. It's someplace safe. Now, where that's someplace safe may be one of 100 different areas. Normally, when I need to clean off my desk to dust or something like that, I put everything, all the loose bits in a bag, and I think that bag got put in with a bag with something else, and that got stored away with some models or miniatures somewhere. And I can't find it at the moment. I'm pretty 95% sure I didn't lose it or throw it away. I just can't find it. And I know if I go and buy a whole new kit, I'm going to find that part the very next day, because that's what always happens. But the good thing is, it's on the outside there, so once I find it, I can just put it on in place. I don't have to take anything apart. And I may be able to scratch build it, but I'm going to wait a little bit and see if I can find another part. I do have the clear part that goes over it. So scratch building a little square shouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, we're done. All of you who sponsored this build, thank you very much. I hope you got your money's worth. It was an enjoyable project. Well, getting to the end step is definitely enjoyable. I do apologize that it took so long. It's just lighting is not my thing. I got really burnt out on it in the summer, and other projects started taking priority, and this just kind of got pushed off into the corner for too long. So I do apologize, and I do appreciate your sponsorship to get this built. But with that, we're going to close this project and immediately start working on something new. And I'll go ahead and put some nice shiny shots. Oh, good lord, I never turned the lights on. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. Let's turn the lights on. How could I go through this whole video without doing that? Bubble brain on. Center panel on. Try to adjust the camera here again. There we go. That's everything lit. That's what you all wanted to see, and I totally forgot about it. So we got all our finger lights going. Lights on top. It's a little weak on this side, unfortunately. At least that's in the back. But most lights are glowing appropriately. And then, of course, when we hit our sound.
Due to known conditions of memory bank, compliance impossible. Unfamiliar behavior pattern is detected.
I'm really disappointed I couldn't find a clean danger voiceover, but oh well.
With alien life forms, ours is not to reason why. Ours is what to do or become permanently deactivated.
And I'll put some photos, better photos at the end of this, but we'll just leave with...
This project is extremely dangerous.
Indeed it is.